Boundless Spirit, pushing the limits of talk radio with Charlene Springer.
Welcome to Boundless Spirit Radio with Charlene Springer. And today, another wonderful show. I'm excited about this guest today. His name is Chris Kehler. And Chris is what you would call a quantum energy healer. And he's going to, I think, blow your socks off today because of all the different things he does. He also is what you call a dowser. And this takes it to a whole other level healing. And Chris can tell us all about it today. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Charlene. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on today with us. This is cool. So, first of all, what is a quantum energy healer?
What isn't a quantum energy healer? Basically, we do healing work at the quantum level, which is would be considered in the astral and all of the etheric that is all around us. So we find all of the problem areas being affected within these quantum energies, such as extraterrestrial stuff, all different types of negative dark energy stuff that affects people on a daily basis.
So now, what happens if, people come and they go, well, I have, for instance, a headache, a neck ache, and, I've always had this headache, neck ache, and it's not going away. I've gone to chiropractors, I've gone to, everyone, and they just can't seem to get it to go away. So then they would come to you. What would you tell them?
Well, what we would do, and ultimately, if there's any kind of health problem, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme nor reason for it within the allopathic medical system, a Tylenol won't work, a massage won't work, acupuncture won't work. There's something going on at a quantum level, at an astral etheric level that we need to figure out. So with my system of dowsing that I've developed called True Quantum Healing, we can ask the questions, find the areas of concern, and whenever there's a problem of that nature that doesn't want to go away, there's always going to be multiple layers of it. So we need to spend a whole session dowsing to find all these trouble areas and clear out the stressors. So the stressors could be, let's say, some type of entity attachment, some type of let's say, a black magic spell, a witchcraft spell, voodoo, curses. All these different things come into play when you're looking in the quantum realm. And so what I do then is whatever I find in whatever area it is, I use my intent, my will. I also use sacred geometry tools that conduct a certain consciousness and an energy to have these things just vanish, that the frequency of them just goes away at the quantum level. And then the problem starts to go away, and we peel the onion to get to the true nature, the true value of what's causing this issue. And it could be some heavy metal deposits, it could be a vertebrae out of place, it could be whiplash. I mean, we can basically find that problem. And if you identify the problem and you tell it to go away at the quantum level, it just disappears, and then all of a sudden a person feels better.
So why have we not looked at quantum healing for our health? I mean, if something can heal on that level as opposed to just the physical, why aren't we doing more of this?
Well, a lot of people are. There's various different forms of quantum healing, and there's Reiki, quantum touch, EFT, elemental P, various forms of it. And we have been doing it for thousands and thousands of years. It's at this point in time right now, it's the awakening process for a lot of people. We're heading into a time called ascension, where we're going to awaken and be sentient beings, have awareness. So a lot of people are realizing that, hey, you know what? I've been going to see this doctor for 10 years, and I get the same pill, and I have the same pain. Maybe I should research something differently. So a lot of people are hitting the internet, hitting YouTube, and looking for an answer, and then all of a sudden they stumble upon some videos that explain how energy healing works, how quantum healing works, and describes a lot of the things within it that could be a problem. And then people have their awakening and say, you know what, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And there's many people who do this work, and a lot of them are very successful. It's some people have different ways of doing it. I like to use the analogy, there's many ways to cook a potato, and some people cook it this way, some people cook it that way. Whatever way you like your potato cooked, that's how you can have your healing done. So you can do it through Mr. Elemental P or Mr. XYZ, whatever way they do it, as long as the problem is gone, it doesn't matter how. So the quantum concept is growing, and that's all because of the internet, all because of wonderful shows like yours, Charlene, that educates people on it, that brings it into awareness, that brings it into our consciousness to say, okay, you know what? There's something else out there other than this pill, other than this doctor saying there's nothing we can do for you. And so people start to go down that road to see how they can be helped. And sure enough, there is many cases that people could not get help. And with this type of work, people are seeing relief, and they're getting answers, number one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did you start in all this? I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a quantum healer?
Well, almost something like that. It started about 11, 12 years ago. My first wife, unfortunately, passed away. She had a rare disease called scleroderma. Now, when that happened, I didn't have a clue that this type of healing existed. I didn't have any clue what alternative was out there. And when she did pass away, that at 47, that enabled me to retire from the printing industry. I was printing for almost 30 years, and it was my craft. It was my work. It's what I love doing, running $2 million printing presses, printing magazines and different types of forms like that. And I had enough. So I said, I'm going to retire for now, take a break, and see what happens. So at 47, well, there's not a lot to do when you're not working at 47 years old. You can go to the coffee shop or walk around the mall for a while, and then what have you accomplished? So one day I was having coffee with a friend who said, you know what, Chris, maybe you should do some alternative healing because you've been in the printing industry for so long. All of these solvents, the aromatic hydrocarbons, the printing ink, the paper dust, the negative energies within. I'm like, oh, shut up and get me another beer. Never mind talking about that. So one day I'm walking in my local mall in Winnipeg, and I look up at this sign, and I walk past this sign probably a million times, and it said foot bath detox. And I said to myself, I think I'm supposed to go in there. So literally, I walked in the door. I set myself up with these foot bath detoxes, and the fellow who ran the store did something called muscle testing. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of telling him my story, and he shows me about this muscle testing. He says, oh, you have a rib out of place. I says, yeah, I was a bodybuilder for many years, and I was doing a leg press of about 700 pounds on it, and I popped a rib out of place. Mm-hmm. He says, well, your body told me. I says, come on. and so he started showing me more about it, and I kind of, subconsciously took a very big interest in it. And sure enough, there's somebody in Winnipeg who teaches muscle testing, and I took a course, nothing better to do. I thought, okay, you know what? This sounds very interesting. And as I did that, I started meeting more and more people who do this type of work in Alberta, Canada, BC, Canada, who do this type of work, and I just railroaded it. I had nothing better to do. I had a pocket full of money, so I said, you know what, this is extremely interesting. I'm going to go ahead and follow this up. And here I am today, 12 years later. I'm in a healthcare center. This is what I do for a living, 8-9 hours a day, 5 days a week, working with people all over the world because it's just energy. You can move it anywhere, anyhow. and we're getting results, and it's helping people. I'm supporting my new family with it, and we're learning more every day about the whole concept of who we are, why we're here, the whole concept of humanity versus extraterrestrials and other concepts of dimension. So the trip down the rabbit hole has been very interesting, to say the least. And it just shows you that there is something other than what's right in front of our faces on a daily basis. There is things behind the scenes, behind the veils, that we need to pay attention to, and that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that there's something that happened in your childhood that may have already been started you on the process and you kind of got sidelined?
Well, my childhood, I was brought up in a strict Mennonite society. So every Sunday was going to church, and everything was done a certain way. And I was the one kid out of many, many kids in my family who just hated going to church. It was, I do not want to be here. I don't feel comfortable. This is not who I am. I just did not want to go. So that tells me that way back then already, I was already pushing away religion, structured, organized religion. I was pushing it away and leaning more to spirituality.
Yeah, it's so funny that you always see that you're usually the odd child out, people that are in this field. Yeah, it's interesting. So you started your process and you haven't turned back since. What are some of the things that you were surprised about when you started working with people?
Well, I was definitely surprised with some of the outcomes. For things to immediately change within a person. Somebody I would work with somebody who has gout in their foot, and it was all purple and green and not looking very healthy. Moving some energy, all of a sudden the color comes back, and a lot of aha moments in that respect. Just seeing immediate results. But I think more so, the biggest epiphanies have been the discovery, not so much discovery, but the opening of knowledge vaults, showing me why we are here as a human, what the process is, and what is going on within humanity in general. If you look at war and terrorism and banks and lawyers and all that stuff that is basically a necessary evil within us. Understanding why it's happening, who's pulling the strings and pushing the buttons is the big one, and ultimately learning how to work around it and how to remove that from somebody's life so that they can have peace within themselves. That's been the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so if we were to start from the beginning, like, you look at just healthcare in general, what are your thoughts on what the system looks like now?
Well, the system generally looks like a pharmaceutical factory. That's I do have many clients who their main goal is to get off of their pharmaceuticals that they're taking because they're not giving them any benefit. They're stuck on them. People with depression are battling depression and battling all the side effects of their pharmaceutical drugs. So it really is disheartening to see a lot of things happening. I mean, just in Winnipeg alone, the city I live in, Winnipeg, Canada, a close personal friend of mine, her sister's boyfriend was suicidal. He tried to take his life. He got stopped by a friend. A few days later, he goes to the hospital and says, "I'm suicidal." A doctor looks at him and says, "No, you're not. Go home." So he went home and killed himself. Okay?
Wow.
And you're seeing more and more of that. The more stories you hear, about people being, considered a number, being considered off the wall, or you don't have a problem while you're here for it. It's people not getting the respect that they deserve or the attention. Now, take it that there are a lot of people that go into the emergency room with no problems, with a runny nose, that clog up the system. And in Canada, we have a free healthcare system, so you can go to any emergency room and with any kind of ailment and get attention. You might have to sit for 10 hours, but that's what it is. But I am, seeing firsthand that the medical system in Canada, the United States, needs a lot of attention. Now, if you look into other countries, you go to Germany, Australia, the UK, there are some facilities set up as hospitals that will incorporate a lot of the energetic sciences, a lot of quantum touch, a lot of Reiki, homeopathy, naturopaths are introduced into those hospitals. So there is movement within the mindset of the medical system in different countries that's allowing this in, because they know that there's validity to it. It does work. Just like, when chiropractic first came out, everybody thought that they were nuts. Okay, now there's a chiropractor on every corner, and a lot of people are getting relief from them. So I'm seeing a lot of disheartening things within the medical system, but I'm also noticing the good that's happening too.
I know people are looking for an alternative now, which is good. They haven't done that. We didn't do that before. But so now, in your practice, is there any part of it that you still have some doubt with, or are you really okay with everything that you do? So is there a part of it that you still feel that there's growth needed, or you see more expansion, or?
Well, every day is basically expansion. Let's say every week I get some kind of new information through source with my dowsing. I use a letter chart. It's like a meditation, and I'm giving new instructions or new insight into something that might pertain to an issue I'm working with a client. So there's nothing, absolutely nothing that I doubt. There are things that I question only because I know that there are different types of conscious beings out there, or entities that would love to lead me astray. Okay, and that's what happens with humanity on a daily basis is we're led astray, and that's through the thought process. How many times you sit there, every day, and you're looking off into nowhere, all of a sudden these thoughts start coming into your head about bad things or stupid things that normally would be your thoughts. So with meditation, dowsing, different types of modalities where people use intuition, you may get some false information or some false leads to follow. So there is a little bit of doubt there, but I've learned, because I do this so often, to know what's right and what's wrong. So do I doubt anything? No, I don't, because I know that there's so much out there, and I've been proven that. The proof is in the pudding. I'll give you for instance, a lady came in, and for 15 years, she had pain within the left side of her abdomen. And she had her uterus taken out, her gallbladder taken out, this, that, all kinds of surgeries done. The pain would not go away. So she came in and says, "Okay, Chris, I'm at my wit's end. I want to try this stuff. I've read about you, and I want to know what's going on." So I started dowsing, and I found that Lucifer was within her large intestine. So I told Lucifer, "It's time to leave. You must now leave." And all of a sudden, the pain went from one side of her body to the other side. Her eyes were as big as saucers. She says the pain just moved. It's been in that one spot for 15 years. It just moved. I says, Lucifer is afoot. So I started working on that energy, moved it out, and her pain did leave within that one session. So, to me, that is, some proof that these energies, when commanded at the right level, they must leave. That is one of the universal laws that we work with when we're doing quantum healing. So I get these confirmations all the time that everything we're doing here has validity. Everything works. It's just a matter of doing it at the right time, the right way, saying the right words in the right context. I mean, it's very specific in a lot of ways, but it all boils down to proof that there is something going on here. And I'm booked solid right now until January, with people repeating appointments, people's families making appointments, and that just tells me that if it's not working, If it's not doing what it's supposed to do, I wouldn't be in the position I am with my practice. Things are going that well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if somehow we are becoming more empowered with this process, because this is a part that people think that because something is there, you have no control. But apparently, you've found that we actually do have some control in this,
Well,
and free will, of course. Yeah.
We have more control than what we think. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are all powerful. Okay, that's a quote from I forget who it is, Nelson Mandela. I think somebody else said it too. So that is one thing that I realize is that we are powerful. You just have to learn to harness that power and know how to use it. I mean, anybody can have a howitzer or a gun, but if you use it wrong, you're going to shoot somebody's eye out. So if you realize your potential, and we all have this potential, and many people in the spiritual world have said this: you are all powerful, you create your reality, and so on, but that doesn't tell anybody how to do it. What I've done is I've been shown how to do it and how to access it, and it's all to do with your words, your will, your thought, your intent. That is all that you really need. Your intuition kicks in to know what to work with. So it is, once you see the results, it's confirmation again that what's going on here is something that anybody can use. And I actually sell my course. It's called True Quantum Healing. I've got 48 students now worldwide, in India, Czechoslovakia, Croatia, Australia, New Zealand, the States, UK, you name it. I've got students everywhere, and people are learning how to do this work, learning how to open their true potential and to make these changes within their families, themselves, within the world, and humanity at large.
Mm-hmm. So is that discernment too? That's a key part, because I guess this is why for you, maybe meditation and all these other mind calming things help in the process of knowing your true path.
Well, meditation is a very broad word. People ask if I meditate, and of course I say yes, but I do it in a different way. Everybody's meditation is different. My meditation is with a letter chart in front of me, swinging my pendulum, and it's spelling things out for me. That's my meditation. But ultimately, getting the right connection to source and your higher self, and getting the right information coming in to do the right things is what we're looking for.
How did you do that?
Just started dowsing. I took a letter chart and just started asking it questions, and I got answers. So I knew that something is talking to me. Something wants me to know something. Something needs me to do something for it, let's say, and that's what I follow.
Mm-hmm. Now, you use tools. They're called Krystaline energy tools. Do you want to talk about that? Like, how did you even get that? How did you create that, or what happened here?
The Krystaline tools is a company in Alberta, Canada. The fellow's name is Wayne Gatos, who developed these things and makes them and sells them. Him and I met and realized that these tools, that the secret geometry of the tools is very, very powerful. So when you do a clearing using one of these tools, it amplifies the energies and the intent, and it makes things a lot more powerful. It harnesses the quantum energies a lot more efficiently, and it helps along the way. So he makes various different types of pyramids and rings, different energy types of rings, and there's many other types of energy tools out there. Twisted Sage makes a wonderful product. Slim Sperling makes a wonderful product, and they're all basically tensor type rings that have energy within it that you can command. So when I use the tools, quite often we're moving lots of dark, nasty energies out of people. And many times people doing this work, if you're just using your hands and you haven't been doing it very long, this entity could enter your body. this entity can enter somebody else's body because it's not being dealt with properly. So these tools, used in the right way, will take care of that entity and send it to where it can't hurt anybody. So I really love the tools for that purpose. And then there's other tools that have other structure and different geometry that are good for doing various other tasks.
So do you think these energies are coming in dimensionally, or what's going on?
Yeah, they certainly are coming dimensionally. They're also coming through parallels. So anything dimensional would be like your different types of extraterrestrials, the reptilians, the gray aliens. Those are all the ones we see on the internet. We all know about those. Then there's different parallels that can affect us at different levels. So we have to be concerned about those. There are so many different forms of life out there in the universe, or the multiverse for that matter. That we can't know exactly what they all are. There's lots of people who say they know what they are, but ultimately, the only thing that knows who they are is themselves. So we just refer to them as a stray entity or a rogue entity, and when you identify it at that level and tell it to leave, it has to leave. They all love our energy. They all living off of our energy, and making life rough for us. And all the other species out in the universe, multiverse, think that we're just cattle, think that we're insignificant human beings with no purpose, and they like to come down here and just toy with us. The whole process of ascension, going into this new realm of consciousness, higher dimension, if you will, is to distance ourselves from all of these forms of ET and all these forms of entities that are plaguing humanity daily.
So you talk about the parallel entities. I have never heard of that. So can you help me there? Like, what are those, and what do they want other than, well, I know they want food, so they're coming to us, but I'd never heard about those.
Well, life in the parallels. We are in a parallel universe. There's 7 different Earths. We are on Earth number 2 in the parallel system. Parallel number 6 is an Earth that is very much involved with cyborgs. So every person on parallel 6 is basically a cybernetic, like a robot. Okay, so we interact with these parallels through our dreams. And then when we're going back and forth astral traveling, we can be bringing back a lot of, let's say, infections of different natures along with us that could really influence us.
So parallels, you say when we travel, do we do this? Like, is this what happens in our dream state, that we go to these parallel universes and sometimes pick up residue?
Yeah, that is the concept of astral traveling, is going to different destinations and checking this out. It's like taking a holiday in your sleep and going to different places. We are, through quantum entanglement, attached to these parallels to begin with. So it's very easy for us to find it and come back. So when we do that, we interact in certain ways, and then, again, you're going to bring back different energies, different types of DNA altering energies along with you.
Wow. So do you think this is also where we're getting the information about quantum healing?
We're getting a lot of information about the parallels, which may have a lot more knowledge. Things may have happened there at certain levels that we need to know about to protect ourselves on this level. Okay, so we are getting glimpses of what's going on at different parallels. So if we need to know something, it's like a reference. We can see what's going on in different areas, and maybe in another parallel, which I haven't experienced yet, there healing has taken place, and we've learned exactly what the problems are and learned to deal with them at certain levels. So the knowledge through all the parallels is very important once we start to open up those parallels to know what's happened from 1 to 7, what is actually going on. So that is our inner universe, is a parallel. And then you get into the outer universes, and The word universe, I think, is very misunderstood and too widely used in certain concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a universe. Within our body is a universe. If you look at the cells and the atoms, how they revolve around each other, we have universes there. So it's a matter of realizing, again, what is really out there. And a lot of scientists have done research about parallels, string theory. A lot of quantum scientists are actually talking about it. And the possibilities mathematically are certainly there. So when you make that intent to get information, let's say from a parallel, and it's brought back to you, then you can start to use that and realize that there's certain things at certain parallels that are either detrimental to us that we need to be aware of, or things that we need to know in order to help something that's already happened.
Mm-hmm. You talk about this with scientists, so is this where places like CERN show up?
You know what? CERN is something that a lot of people have concern about, but it's something that hasn't been brought to my consciousness very much at all. It's something that is certainly would have a potential with the energy they're creating. They're trying to create the God particle. That's what they're trying to call it. And all you got to do is hold out your hand, and there's a God particle right there. So I don't need $1 trillion particle accelerator to create the God particle. There it is. But of course, there is lots of concern about a black hole opening or the Earth caving in on itself and that type of thing. I really don't believe that is really going to happen. I don't believe that anything of that nature would really come about. It's too much. I think people's imaginations are running a little wild, to tell you the truth about the whole concept.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about seven Earths. So can you describe each Earth?
No. All I know is that parallel number 6 is the one that is of most concern. And that parallel 6 is actually dissolved because there's so many bad things happening with it that the sun on parallel 6 has gone supernova. And that whole Earth is now gone. So it's no longer really an issue with us. There's going to be residue, of course, if you're somebody on parallel 2 here and you've got something from 6, it's still going to be there. You still need to discover and move out. But number 6 is basically gone.
Okay. And number 2, why number 2? We're not Earth 1.
I didn't create it.
I don't know.
I haven't got a clue. All I know is that we are number 2, parallel 6 is dissolved, and now all the rest is discovered.
Okay, so you're still playing in the different worlds then.
Oh, absolutely. We're waiting for the knowledge to come in.
Okay. So can we get back to the tools now? Some of the tools that you use. Why again? And you're pulling out different things. Certain things show up when you dowse. How do you know what to dowse for? Well,
the way it starts is somebody comes to me with a concern, so we create a focus. Where do we want to put our thought and our energy and our consciousness? Somebody says, I have migraines, I have bowel problems, I have skin problems. So we need to know where to start. So my charts will direct me into that where we need to be. So let's say we need to start first in the bowel, because if the bowel is leaky, you're going to have problems everywhere else. You're going to have detoxification symptoms in your skin and so forth. So my chart will tell me where to start, what energy to clear out, what energy to use to heal the bowel, and then go forward. So it's a matter of discerning where to start first, where to create the focus, and what is the biggest problem, and then just peel that onion until you get down to nothing.
Mm-hmm. Because you talk about like different levels, different entities. So do you know how many different entities are out there that bother us from time to time?
Well, there are many. The main ones are the reptilians. Okay, I've got a concept about the reptilians, what we'll get into in a few minutes possibly. But the reptilians are very big, and again, you look on the internet under reptilian, and you're going to see, many, many videos, many views of those videos. People are very interested in that concept. The gray aliens, of course, are there. People know those because of the big black eyes, the gray bodies, etc. There are Arcturians. There are different forms here and there from different worlds. But the basic ones are the reptilians. And then if we get specific, we look at specific names of certain reptilians. So if you go back into Egyptian mythology, where you have Horus, where you have Thoth, Anubis, all these different higher level Egyptian gods are in fact a reptilian that has been, let's say, shapeshifted into that time and that era in order to participate and to make things happen. So Set is a very big one. Horus can be considered the Antichrist. So if everything has polarity, Set is the negative polarity of things, where Source would be the positive polarity. So the playing of polarity is very huge. But to get back, the main ones, the reptilians, those ones I pull out of people every day. And right now we're at a point of ascension where these reptilians are ready to leave. They're ready to leave us alone and go on their merry way so that we can ascend ourselves into a higher vibration.
Are they going willingly?
Yes, they are. I mean, if they weren't willing to go, it'd be a very, very hard time to remove them. And that's where a lot of people, where you see some type of exorcism happening, where somebody is thrashing around on the ground. If an entity is pulled out when it's not its time or it's not willing to, then you have a fight. You have a fight on your hands.
Do you think some of these are symbiotic relationships?
They're 100% symbiotic. They rely on our energy that we create. Now, if you're somebody who experiences a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of depression, these are all energies that create, these are all emotions that create an energy that we call loosh. And this is what the reptilians feed off of. So, of course, they want you to have lots of anxiety, lots of fear, lots of different negative types of energies. When you're having sex and there's an orgasm, you're saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Well, you're sending energy to your God, which is some type of reptilian. So I always say, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But these entities, they are here to live off of our energy. They're here to use us for experiments. There's many different concepts of that. Now, to get back to what I said before, one concept that I'm working with, it's a theory, is that at one time, most of humanity now was indeed a reptilian. We were a higher level Draco reptilian. And what happened, a shift in the universe happened that enabled the Draco reptilians, when they died, to reincarnate here on Earth, to participate in the ascension process and become a higher conscious being. So now what happens is, because we want to leave the gang says, you're not leaving without a fight. So a lot of people are getting themselves into some trouble. There's a lot of what we consider attacks. And I work with many people who say, I'm under attack on a daily basis. They feel pokings and proddings and pains and different things happening in their life that aren't normal. These could be the reptilian insurgents saying, no, we don't want you leaving because we're taking with us knowledge and secrets and energies that the reptilian race doesn't want the new human race to have within their grasp.
So how does all this all fit in? Yeah. And how does this all fit in with what goes on in the world of banking and that 1% of the population kind of thing?
Well, the concept is that the world bankers, the Rothschilds, anybody who's very high in power, the royals, anybody who's running a country, anybody who's running a bank, anybody high in power and profile, are highly reptilian motivated and driven to create. Now, the bankers create debt. Debt creates anxiety. Anxiety creates food for the reptilians. So if you look at terrorism, okay, right now the concept is that the U.S. is actually paying ISIS to create terrorism so that they can create control over the population and then create fear, which creates food for the reptilians. So there's a lot of that concept, and you know what? It really resonates that this is happening at these levels. Now, if banks are making trillions of dollars in profit, where is it all going? What are they doing with all this money? Are they just sitting on it and farting and counting it? I mean, any type of humane person making trillions of dollars would say, well, let's share it with the world. Let's make the world a better place. But no, that all of this greed has to be involved at certain levels. And of course, they're funding all of these different terrorist groups and organizations to create fear, to create anxiety, to create loot, to create food for the reptilians.
I guess they're pretty desperate because suddenly you see there are a lot more cases of terrorism and any fear-causing situations.
Well, absolutely. And you look at the United Kingdom, London, for instance, France, there seems to be a bit more of it happening. I think in the UK there is a lot of as a boiling point coming with the monarchy, with the Queen and Prince Philip. I mean, they're both in their 90s, and there has to be a time where they have to stop living when you get to that. We can't live. The story is we used to live to 300, 700 years of age. I really don't think that there's going to be some questions asked if they live to 400 years old. Okay, so there has to be some kind of change of the monarchy very soon, and so I think that they're trying to create some kind of scenario that if something happened and the wrong person was brought in, that there would be no uprising, that they can control the crowds with terrorism, control the crowds with having a curfew, let's say. So they're practicing crowd control and person control right now to see if it can be done.
It's funny, I was just looking at something the other day, and the Londoners. Actually, I was looking at an old thing with oh God, I forgot his name, John whatever. He's on an HBO show, and he was talking about how in London, yes, all the bombing and stuff was going on, but the guy made sure he had his beer with him as he was escorted off from a terror attack. So he's like, London people aren't really in fear as how like the Americans would be.
I think the Americans, fear it runs a lot of different ways in the States. I mean, right now with the present government, there's a lot of doubt. So doubt is of course concern and fear. Many jobless people in the States. Okay, many people don't have health care. Many people don't have this and that. So you look at Flint, Michigan. The water isn't suitable for a sewer rat. So there's a lot of that animosity also comes into play. So lots of stuff at different levels. You go to the UK, everybody's got everything there. Everybody's well off for the most part. But if you look at the States, there's a lot of other underlying factors going on. And now you take into consideration a lot of people creating fear by bringing in talk about chemtrailing and all kinds of different things happening. This is all raising fear. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's contributing to the whole concept that you control the population by bringing in fear, by creating all of these scenarios. So is there more fear in the States than there is in the UK? Absolutely. As you said, people are like, oh, look, another terrorist attack. Let's sit and watch it. Okay, that is in one way, shape, or form happening. Germany is a big one right now. I have a few colleagues in Germany that tell me on a daily basis they can't go outside without getting molested or shaken up by somebody from another country. trying to take over, trying to push themselves around, trying to assert their manliness on you.
Well, I know the world is definitely changing. So how do you know anything about Schumann resonance?
Schumann resonance, absolutely. The vibration of the planet is rising at an exponential rate. It used to be at, I think, at 7.2 or something like that. Now it's up to like 40. The vibration of the planet is, we harmonize with it, much like you take a tuning fork and put it on a piano, the tuning fork will start to vibrate. And then we are basically the tuning fork. So some people are resonating with the planet, some people aren't, and those people aren't grounded properly, and it creates disharmony within their body because now they're not rising in vibration in order to keep themselves at a vibration so that these entities will stay away. The Schumann resonance, the higher resonance, is like a mosquito repellent. Okay, it will keep these beings away from us.
Because they talked about it, sound or emotions being measured on the planet. And, I remember years ago reading something with Greg Braden where he talked about how when 9/11 happened, that there was just such a rise from when they started taking measurements that, was it a rise for empathy? Was it a rise for fear? What was it a rise for? And who are we really feeding with the vibration of the planet?
That's an argument that could be had over a box of beer and a case of wine for sure. Sometimes something bad has to happen for something good to happen. I mean, I don't want to say that 9/11 was a good thing for sure. I mean, there's no doubt that it was a false flag attack. The U.S. attacked its own buildings for whatever reason. So, did that cause the Schumann resonance to spike? Maybe it was a wake-up call to say, hey, we better rise this energy now because look what's happening. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at that. I'm not exactly too sure on it.
So now let's get back to some of what you do. So you offer like all these really cool things on your website. And what's your website again?
ChrisKehler.net.
And so some of the things that you offer, I found it very interesting. The live blood analysis. That's really cool.
Yeah, the foot bath detox, there's a few things. Foot bath detox and live blood analysis is how I started in this business. The foot bath detox was the first thing I started doing. And that's something that has to be done in Winnipeg. Now, if you go on the internet and you research your city for people who do foot bath detox, you're going to find quite a bit of it. It's very popular.
Yeah.
What this does is you put your feet in a pan of water with a mechanism that creates positive and negative ion within the water, and it'll release toxins out of your body at the cellular level, and it draws them out through the pores of your feet. And there is a lot of gunk in the water after one of these things has been done. They work very, very well. Helps to remove all the chemicals. And that if you look at chemicals in our body and in our lifestyle, if you use deodorant and toothpaste, well, you're bombarding your body with chemicals already. Then you look at all the formaldehyde within glues and adhesives. Everybody uses glues and tape. There's formaldehyde in there, and that can cause a lot of problem in our body. And the latest one is glyphosate from Monsanto. That one, I think in California now, they're calling it a carcinogen. Okay, so there's all these chemicals get built up on our bodies and causes disruption. It causes mineral imbalances. So you need to be able to bind these out of your body, and the foot bath detox is very good for that. The live blood analysis is very good for looking in your blood. When you come into my office or anybody else's office that does live blood analysis, you take a little poke of blood out of your finger, put it in a very expensive lab quality microscope, and you can see it in real time on a computer screen. What's floating around in the background of the blood? How do the blood cells look? Do they look healthy? Are they bent over? Do they have donuts in them that would show an iron deficiency? So it's a very scientific way of looking to see if you have healthy blood. And for a lot of people, they'll come in, we'll do an analysis, then they'll take 2 or 3 weeks and they'll do a fast, they'll change their diet, add some fruits and vegetables, knock out any kind of fast foods and sugars. Then you come back in, you can see how healthy your blood is. So it's a very scientific, as a matter of fact, way to see what's working for your body.
What was the wildest thing you ever saw when you did one of those?
A worm parasite flopping around.
That's so creepy.
It is a little creepy, but you know, everybody's eyes are glued on that screen watching that thing flopping around.
Did you do video? Right. Wow, incredible. So now, what else do you offer? I mean, how can people find you for like a session, or how do they get to you?
Well, what 99% of everybody does is, of course, they're going to watch a bunch of my videos on YouTube. I've got about 400 different videos on YouTube, various updates, and talk about different things. I've got wonderful radio shows like your own that are on my website, my YouTube channel. People can listen to. I've got my own radio show on Pyramid One Network that I have on there. So you can listen to a lot of things and get some ideas on exactly where my head is at with all this stuff. And if you're interested in booking a session, you go to my website. There's a button that says book an appointment, and then up comes my schedule, and you can pick a day that's open and book your own appointment. The way I run my business is I'm the only one here. I have one guy who does promotions for me, who finds me radio shows like yours, and helps me in that concept. And he's really made a big influence or big difference in my business and how people can find me. So my hat's off to Hayden for really being there for me. So you can book your own appointment. We do payment right there and then. We do everything right there and then. There's no receptionist. There's nobody else you're going to talk to. You're always going to talk to me. But most people just book their own session, and they book multiple sessions, one a week for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and then we do work after work after work. If you only need 3 sessions and you book 5, well, then you can give the other 2 to somebody else, or we can, give them to somebody in need of a session. But that's the basis of it. I want to keep it very simple, so that anybody who can use a computer and 3 or 4 clicks can book a session and benefit from what's going on over here.
One of the things you do is distance healing. So how does that work?
Well, that's the mainstay. That's basically what we do here: 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. So just as you and I are talking over the internet right now, if you're in Austin, Texas, and I'm in Winnipeg, Canada, you don't have to get on a plane and come to Winnipeg, Canada. We can do the session over the phone, over Skype or the telephone. And because we're just working with energy, it happens at the speed of energy, which is immediate. So anybody anywhere in the world we work with, and you feel the energy right away, you know something's happening. There's really not much delay in it, and most people get some kind of relief right away. So the distance healing is really what is a big deal. Okay, people are loving it because you don't have to. If you want to go to John of God, you got to get on a plane and go to Brazil. Okay, and it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to go and do that, and you got to wait. Here you book your appointment. If your appointment is at 6 o'clock, I call you at 1 minute before 6, and we start the work, and we work for 45 minutes, and we get the job done, and then you're back on with your day. You go see a doctor, you're going to be waiting in that waiting room for 4 or 5 hours now, aren't you? So we like to make it very convenient and very doable and affordable also.
So now you talk a lot about you have like different things. You mentioned like when you take out entities, you talk about reptilian, but then there's another type of entity that you pull out too sometimes.
There are the gray aliens. Okay, they are very instrumental in what's going on here. There's a being I found called the Tiazi. They're multidimensional. They'll come in and out through portals within your body and whatnot. There are let's see, I've got a list here of all the different ones I work with. There's the entities, and then there's also negative energies. So when you look at down the concept of magic, there is a book that was written back in, I think, it was the 12th century, called the Ars Notoria. And what that book is a satanic spell book. So within that book, a lot of people have got versions of it, and they recite these spells. King Solomon was very instrumental with using this book to get his gold and to get whatever he wanted. He used these spells. So King Solomon inadvertently put a spell on humanity called the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is kind of like a bad luck spell for everyone and anyone. If somebody tries to use this book, they're going to be in trouble health-wise, one way, shape, or form for it. So all these different curses, these different spells, all these different types of let's just call it black, dark, ill intent, is something that has to be dealt with on a daily basis. And it goes deep into the concept of family curses. How come every male in the family has cancer and every woman in the family has uterus problems? Okay, these are all curses that are passed along the bloodline from an ancestry point of view that need to be dealt with. And quite often we need to go into the first creation of the family member, or the first creation of whoever's carrying the curse, and cancel it out at that level in order for it to affect here. So it's kind of like a past life thing we have to address, and then it turns into a butterfly effect, and then it knocks them all out, all through the lineage, so that we can actually get to the root core of the problem within you.
Mm-hmm. How many generations back does the healing work that you do go?
Never really asked that question. I know that, to my knowledge, there's nobody that I know in my family who's ever done anything like this. But then again, there's always possibilities that people do this without anybody knowing, of course. Many people have a gift of sending thought, sending energy, sending healing without somebody knowing it. Some people have it and don't know how to use it, and it ends up turning back on them for some reason, and then all of a sudden they're in trouble. So I don't have any knowledge of the past, but I'm sure there's a Kehler or a Fair back there, somebody who dabbled in the dark art.
That's funny. And how about your kids? Do you teach kids this? I mean,
well, I basically teach anybody who's conscious enough to understand what's going on. Now, I've always got tools at home, and my kids, my son is 5, my daughter is 3, and it's really cute to I'll work on my wife and my kids, and I'll be saying the words, and then I'll turn my back, and my son's got one of my pyramids holding over one of my daughter's dolls and saying, "Heal the doll's body," and so they're copying Dad, which just tickles me silly to see that. But I know that possibly one day they might pick up on it and take an interest in it. They'll play with my charts and flip the charts, and my daughter will take a pendulum and slap it on the charts and try and do what Daddy does. So it is they are noticing it. They are opening up a little bit, I think.
Okay. How do you deal with critics that say, "Oh, that's just more witchcraft"? You're talking about it, but it's more witchcraft.
Everybody's welcome to their opinion, and I don't try to convert anybody. I don't try to tell anybody this is what you should be doing. The big thing with this, my wife and I will go to a party, and she'll look at me and say, "You're not going to talk about your stuff again tonight, are you?" Because a lot of people just aren't open to it. So I've come to the point where if somebody asks me, "What do you do for a living?" I'll look at my wife and say, "Can I tell them?" And they say, "Go ahead." So I'll kind of explain in a very faint way about what it is, and all of a sudden you see an eyeball roll or you see an eyebrow go up, and then you think, "Okay, can I keep going or do I stop right here?" So a lot of people are, let's say, weary of this, that they're kind of afraid of it. A lot of people know about black magic and different things. They know about the Ouija board and all types of things like that. And so they want to stay away from it. A lot of people are just like, "Yeah, whatever, Chris, have another vodka." So I just, clam up. If somebody is interested, I will talk about it. I love shows, I guess, because I get to talk about it. It's something that is very passionate within me. And, to educate people, to talk about it is to awaken and educate people on it.
Yeah, that's key. I think we need more of that. Definitely more of that. So what next? I mean, so far you've grown your business. Do you have rooms or plans for more expansion, or?
Well, I think ultimately, the universe or source is going to have plans for me. And what I've seen within my growth is I've actually gone from using a pendulum to not using a pendulum. Instead of a pendulum swinging back and forth over my charts, now my fingers do the walking. I call it scratching. So I'll scratch back and forth. So my arm moves back and forth, and it points the direction on the charts as where I need to be. So I can see within myself that there is growth. Okay, we're going to different levels and learning different ways to do things. So I think that in the future it's going to be a lot faster, because dowsing can take a little while. Anybody who's used a pendulum knows that to wait for that thing to swing in the right direction could take a few minutes. And my goal is to help people as fast as I can and as accurately as I can in order to get the job done. So I think there's going to be a time where all of a sudden, dowsing isn't needed. There are a lot of people out there who, the thought just comes to their mind where they need to work and what they need to do. And I'm sure that eventually it's going to get to that point. And I think ultimately, too, the ability to help people with severe illnesses. Right now, I am working with some people with ALS and different severe chronic illnesses like that to find the answers and to really dig deep and to know what it is. So we're able to do a lot of things. The things like ALS, cerebral palsy, severe chronic illnesses like that are still a real toughie. I have had lots of success. There's a gentleman in Scotland who was paralyzed from the neck down, who can now pick up a laptop and move his arm and manipulate things. He has arm wrestling with his caregiver, and he's starting to look into standing up on his own. So we're making a lot of progress. That took a lot of sessions to get to that point. But ultimately, we did get some movement. We did get some results out of it. So I think that my future holds for me that we're going to be able to attack all of these chronic illnesses and be able to help people with them.
Have you ever been wrong with your dowsing?
Oh, yes, many, many times. That's the whole key with dowsing is to be able to get the right answer more consistently. And of course, there are different consciousness out there who will intervene and make you find. If let's say there's a very negative entity within somebody, and this entity knows that I'm onto them, they can cause a wrong answer to come up. Okay, and the way I've designed my system, the True Quantum Healing System, is that there are ways to ask the question to bypass the consciousness of these beings in order to see what the problem is. So sometimes you ask a question one way, another way, ask a different question, go into different types of charts and look for the emotion or look for this or that, and it gives you an idea of what it is, and then you can attack it. Then you can surprise it. So it's like a surprise attack. So a lot of my students, when you start out with this, of course, the first thing is when you get an answer, is this answer right? So I call it dowsing, not dowsing, dowsing. So that's why I developed the system the way it is, so you can confirm your answers with the pendulum and know you're on the right track.
Yeah, because you always wonder about that. Is this correct? Is this really what I'm supposed to do? Or yeah.
You want me to do
what? I'm not telling them that. I know you have all these. So you have, between the dowsing, what your guidance comes through, what's the scariest thing that you've ever come across?
The scariest thing I've ever come across, I have had somebody at the end of the telephone line go into full-blown exorcism.
Whoa.
Okay, a person went on the ground, started shaking, writhing, hissing. eyes rolled back in their head, and this kid's mom is saying, "What do I do?" I says, "Leave it. Don't touch it. Just leave it. It's on its way out." And that's when, I realized I missed a step. I did something I shouldn't have done yet. There are safeguards in place when we're doing this work to make sure these things like this doesn't happen. But this one got by us, and then this thing came out with a vengeance. So that was in itself somewhat scary. I've had, people in my office. They have something so deep within them that you try and pull it out, and it creates a healing crisis, and they end up passing out on the floor. What do you do now? We've learned from those instances that you have to follow the process and make sure you do it right. Otherwise, these things do happen. I did at one time when I was sleeping, in between sleep and awake, mostly awake, saw a reptilian right in front of my face. It was in my third eye, and I looked at this thing, and it looked at me, and its eyes shifted back and forth. I looked at it and said, "Boo," and it took off. It wasn't so scary. It was more funny because I just scared him away.
So no fear. That's good.
No fear. Zero fear.
So again, Chris, can you tell us how we can find you, on the website?
It's very easy. ChrisKehler.net. ChrisKehler.net. Make sure you do .net. There is a ChrisKehler.com. You don't want to go there. It's kind of weird. But all my information is there. I've got a link to Facebook, a link to my YouTube. Very easy to get a hold of. I always get back to people within a day or so, and you will talk directly to me, not to somebody's receptionist, not to a call center.
Awesome. And you said your course is ongoing. Is that?
The course is ongoing. It is on my website. It's $2,000, but you're going to get everything you need to get started. And also you get all of my knowledge. If you have an issue, a stumbling block, you send me an email and I'll walk you through it. There's also everybody who's bought the course. There is an internet site called Groupbox. It's an internet board, and everybody talks to one another. Everybody practices on one another. So you're part of a community, which is interesting because everybody who has bought this course does it a little differently. They all have their different concepts and different belief systems. So everybody does it a little differently. Everybody gets success. So you're able to pick the brain of somebody who does it this way or that way, and it might spark something within you to send you on your own direction. So you're not just getting a course. You're getting to be part of a community. You're getting ongoing support, and it's it always updates. There's always something new that I find that I email to people to put this in the chart system and to be aware of this type of thing. So you're getting help. You're getting somebody behind you, and it's a full group behind you.
Wow. Awesome, Chris. So, again, people can check out your website, chriskehler.net, and you can find all the information, how to schedule your appointments, and as I said, they have to show up by your place to get the live blood analysis, right?
If you want to come to Winnipeg, you're more than welcome to. But if you're interested in that live blood or foot bath, anything like that, you just research your own city, and there'll be somebody in naturopath or something.
That's doing it. Great. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being on with us today. I mean, this was definitely eye-opening, and I can't wait to hear what's going to come up in our woo hour with you.
We'll have some fun.
Great. You've been listening to Boundless Spirit Radio with Charlene Springer. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Boundless Spirit goes off the rails. Next up in our members-only segment, the Woo Woo Hour. Whether it's happening on the planet, off the planet, or inside the planet, host Charlene Springer, expert guests, and you dare to go there in the Woo Woo Hour.